vacant buildings in the city, right? So one, if you do an assessment and you see who owns some of these buildings, there are a lot of people who are intentionally allowing these buildings to decay and sit because they're waiting for us to pay astronomical numbers for some of these buildings. To be completely upfront with you, we're not doing it because we know they just want to take advantage of the taxpayers. We can't allow that to happen. So the buildings that are publicly owned, we're always trying to be creative in ways that we can repurpose these buildings. The most important thing that we're going to experience in Newport News is redevelopment, because a lot of Newport News is already built out. Really the main last large parcel of land is the the Carlton site. If you know where Carlton Falls is, it's a massive plot of land. So I'm saying that we're about 90% built out already, so we're going to experience a massive redevelopment season for us. And so we just have to get creative. I think on top of that, we're in a transition season. When we got elected, there were a number of things happening, but what I'll speak to is we're now going to have to look for a new economic development director because she retired. And on top of that, our planning director retired. And unfortunately, the number two that was going to assume that position passed away. And so that's just 3 positions that I named. We are in a season in which if you do not develop your bench, if you don't develop the people under you, right, there's going to be a swelling of which you have either people retiring or they are staying in positions longer than they should. That's just a straight up truth about it. I will not lie. And so we have to navigate through all of that. But specifically towards our unhoused individuals, the first thing that always gets to me is that everyone has their own testimony and story as to how they got into this situation. So showing empathy, number one, is always important. So for those that don't know, I used to be a missionary, both international and domestic. So I spent time in Malawi, I spent time over here, and one of my responsibilities was working at the soup kitchen every week. So to the gentleman's point, when you never know some of their stories, when I had a gentleman that I used to talk to, Mr. Ron, every week, he was receiving a good amount of money from the state. He was receiving a good amount of money in retirement, but for whatever reason, he chose to, it was a mental health issue as well, but he was unhoused. And there was him and probably about 10 others that he really formed a bond with. But my point is, this is a mental health issue as well, and it's significant. So Newport News has done the most across Hampton Roads when it comes to our unhoused people. We're the only ones with a day service center, and that's 4 Oaks. And so if you look across Hampton Roads, no one has housed one. But on top of that, the other localities know that. And the truth of the matter is they intentionally have put people on buses and brought them over here. And my thing that I've said publicly already, everyone should be doing their fair share in addressing this epidemic. But if y'all are gonna continue to bring them over, one, we're gonna stop it. But the point is, we will do everything within our power to take care of them because that's what we were called to do and we'll do it. But it has to be said publicly and it needs to be addressed regionally because we cannot be left with the burden alone to address this issue. And so that's another big part of it. So if you see folks that come over, I think we're gonna have to get creative with our housing. I was supposed to go to Salt Lake City for our National League of Cities conference, but was not able to make it. But the point is, there's a tiny home community that is in Utah that they were able to transform and repurpose some of that land. Raise your hand if you've heard of tiny homes. If I need to start, okay, good. I didn't know if I needed to explain. But for those that don't know, right, think of, I was about to say shipping container, but there are other forms as well. But nevertheless, they're not just for unhoused people. You have a lot of people. Some of these are luxury tiny homes. So the point is, housing costs have just risen ridiculously, and so we're going to have to get creative buy tiny homes. We're gonna have to repurpose some of, right across the street is an old, what is it, an old hotel, I think, I can't remember what it was. So someone who grew up in the courthouse, they see it all the day, all the time. But the point is, I'm not gonna keep belaboring the point, we have to get creative, but Newport News has been doing a lot over the years and will continue to do what is necessary. And so, I started there. I think, Pastor, on the flyer, you really wanted me to talk also about updates within our district. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
All right, so the first thing I'll start with is, we just started school. We just started school. I'm excited about all of our young people who were excited about the first day yesterday. So please, if you see some of our young people out here in the community, please just encourage them. What I try to tell them all the time, whether I'm speaking or mentoring, is pour back into the community that's pouring into you. We invest so much money into our school system, and as someone who graduated from Woodside, before you graduate from high school, you never say, I want to live in Newport News for the rest of my life. That's an issue for me, right? We should want to create a space in which our young people want to thrive here. And so that's probably top priority for me when it comes to our schools, because that's what I think about on a regular basis. And so support them as you see them in the community, support our teachers. One big thing that is extremely important right now is school construction. Raise your hand if you heard about the 1% sales tax that's coming up. Yeah. All right, so the truth of the matter is a lot of our school infrastructure is aged. I could stand here and say it's this person's fault, why they didn't address it over the last few years, but I'm not going to do that because it doesn't matter. What are we going to do right now? And so a big help for that is by putting it to a vote, so that way all of us can decide versus it being a council thing. Now, granted, it's the state telling us we have to, in order to do something like this, you have to put it on a referendum for the ballot. But the point is, it is not, and what I want to make sure everyone understands, this is not just Newport News residents paying for it, right? This is for any and everyone who comes into Newport News to spend money, right? We are trying to raise funds so we can build the schools and have adequate learning environments for our young people and our teachers. So I know there might be a few questions in regards to that. Well, one second, let me get to it when I'm done. The next thing, so I'm going to talk about Bristol. There's a new library that is coming on board. I want to say, I'm excited because that's one of the projects I felt that has just been sitting there for so long. But by the gracious of the rest of the council, I appreciate them heeding to my call, wanting to do that, because it's important to the district, but it's also important to the city. That library currently is one of the most utilized libraries in the city, and it's been tucked away in the cut since I was a small boy, before I was born. But the point is, this is going to be a major learning opportunity for not only our young folks, but for all of our residents of Newport News, and I'm looking forward to that coming online. They should be breaking ground here shortly, and you should expect that to be open, you know what, let me not even say that. It should be open relatively soon, I say that. Another thing is 64. Oh my goodness. 64 is finally going to connect to the Denby Bridge, and they will start in September. So I think that's extremely important for everyone to know in here. The houses that are back there, some of them will have to come down. However, the relocation assistance not only gave them more than fair value for their homes, everyone was extremely happy about it. It was only 3. It was only 3, and we were very sensitive to that matter, because when you say, and granted, this wasn't the city, VDOT, the state, so the state via eminent domain took 3 of those houses in order to build the ramp, or going to start the process for building that ramp. But I promise you, it is going to be a game changer for our area, because someone mentioned the Kmart site. When you talk to businesses, right, who you're trying to entertain or incentivize to want to come, they're saying, well, there's a huge gap between Fort Eustis and Walmart. Why does it make sense for us to come in this specific area if the connectivity isn't there? Once you were able to connect there, it opens up our entire corridor in the heart of our district. And so what I also say is, even for the folks at economic development, the conversation has always just been around the Kmart side, right? Just that specific square footage of the Kmart. We should be thinking much broader than that. It should be the entire shopping center, because we've had so many issues with them keeping it up. Unfortunately, vandalism going on over there. So we have an opportunity to include all of that. Let's just stop thinking small ball or JV, and we need to really think, how can we transform a lot of these dilapidated areas in our city? So that's something that I will continue to harp on, not only for the district, but for the rest of the city. Sheriff spoke to it, but Sheriff has been an amazing partner. But another thing that we have to address is our jail. We have to address our jail, and not only that, our courts. So imagine, not only do you have to rebuild the schools because of the aged infrastructure, the courthouse has been aged, the jail has been aged, and all of this has been brought upon our table, and we have to figure out the best way to address those needs while also ensuring that we're taking care of all of our residents and what their basic needs are, from trash collection to making sure your street lights are working properly. But these are the things that we have to wrestle with on a regular basis, and all of them are equal priorities because they're just as important. So I just want to thank the sheriff for sure for his partnership. We're going to continue to work together, and then on top of that, with the schools, I know my counterpart in the district, Ms. Rashina Harris, along with her husband, who is also my colleague in the north, Councilman Marcellus Harris. We meet regularly, but the point is we have to collaborate. The relationship prior to us being on city council was atrocious. That's the truth. And so we have worked day in and day in and day out to ensure that that relationship was repaired. And I hope that that is what you feel. Thank you.
Just take questions at the end.
All right, the last thing I'll mention is fire stations. I'm gonna be completely honest. The simple fact that some of these fire stations have been allowed to stay in their current states for so long has been a tragedy. Because if this is a representation of how we view our first responders, then we're doing a horrible job. So my job, being the chair of our Finance and Government Performance Committee, is how can we efficiently build the fire stations that we need while also being fiduciary, responsible elected officials when it comes to our taxpayer dollars. And so some of these fire stations, like I said, have just been in much need of repair or just complete demo because they just cannot accommodate the true need of some of our firefighters. And so I know when Grissom is relocated to where it's going to be now, we're going to expand that fire station. That's one of the busiest fire stations in the city. And so that will be to provide much relief to our men and women that serve our community there. And I'm just looking forward to a lot of those coming online. We already broke ground another one by the airport, but I don't want to wait 10 years. Every 10 years we build something. How can we find a way to be efficient and build multiple? Right? We don't have to wait. And so that is what my charge is to the rest of council, and I'm extremely grateful for our mayor and the rest of my team because we really do put in the time and the effort. So I will stop there because I feel like I'm getting long-winded, but nevertheless, I will answer a few questions if you got them.
While he's doing that, let me just say this about the referendum on the school, the tax. Folks, Newport News is the city center for the peninsula. Everyone comes here to go to our stores, our shopping centers, our malls, right? They will help build the school because their money will be taxed. It's not just us. So at the end of the day, think about it in a big way. Everybody comes here and enjoy what we do and what we offer. And when Wegmans is put out here and the new Costco's, folks are gonna come and spend their money. So think about it that way, all right?
They shop, we win.
Quickly,
We all-
brother, go ahead.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Carl, how are you?
I'm doing well. My question is, about 4 years ago, I went to do some home repair when the wife bought a brand new faucet and stuff for the kitchen that we did not need, but when I went
My
out.
wife does that to me too.
When I went out to turn my water off, I found out I couldn't do it. This is about, 4 or 5 years ago. So I called them, remember, they said, oh, we put a new automatic water system in, and we have to turn it off. Wait 30 to 45 minutes, and it would be off. So I did that, and yes, it was off. I finished doing what I was doing. Called them, waited another 30 to 45 minutes, it came on. Well, being an electronic tech from the Navy, I know all this stuff. So, have you all had discussions about these cyber attacks that's going on with the water facilities and everything, here in Newport News? Because, I was just wondering, have you all had discussions at the city with the water department about that?
Absolutely. And so recently, I know we allocated about $6 million toward beefing up our cybersecurity. That's another thing that has just been aged for quite some time. You have to make those investments because of that issue. When you have people trying to take over your water systems and then holding them ransom, saying you have to pay X amount of dollars before we release it back to you, that is an issue. That has not happened in Newport News yet, but there were a lot of vulnerabilities within our current system in which we had to beef up. So we did invest in $6 million. And so looking forward to that being really adequate.
Okay, we want to move on and just table your question for now. We want to have the other two guests that's on the roster have an opportunity to say something.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Delegate Shelly Simonds. I represent this area in District 70 in the Virginia House of Delegates. I am the chair of the K-12 Education Subcommittee in the House. I'm newly appointed to the Appropriations Committee, where we create the spending plan for the state. And I'm also a new-ish member of the County, Cities, and Towns Committee, which I really enjoy, because that committee is what guides zoning around Virginia. And one of the reasons we have a homelessness crisis is because we have a housing supply crisis across Virginia. We are missing about 100,000 housing units across the state. We have not kept up with supply. I know many of you are frustrated because you see old motels. You see old shopping centers. Why can't we convert them into housing? A lot of that is because of zoning and also fire code regulations. So we are working hard to break those things down in the General Assembly. This year I was involved in 2 different bills that we passed that will address the housing crisis. One is really exciting. It's called Faith in Housing. As our Vice Mayor said, we don't have a lot of land left to develop in Newport News. Churches do have a lot of land in really beautiful parts of the city. How can they leverage that land to provide more housing for senior citizens, supportive housing for veterans? So we passed a bill called Faith in Housing, and that bill was a mandate saying that cities have to allow faith communities to redevelop their land. I passed a bill that's called Expedited Affordable Housing. And what that bill does is more of a permissive bill, allowing localities to create new zoning rules for nonprofits that want to build things like tiny homes, to have an expedited process. And I am really happy to tell everybody that I've gotten some assurances from the mayor that City of Newport News, I believe, is gonna be working on some special
Yes.
zoning ordinances for expedited affordable housing. So that's really exciting. In other housing areas, I think for me, it's really important to work on issues that are brought to me by the community. So I really do appreciate Pastor Jones, Bishop Jones, sponsoring this event, because this is how we find out what we need to work on. And I'm definitely hearing homelessness. A couple years ago, I was hearing a lot about evictions. The United Way brought to me a problem where they wanted to be able to put a flyer on eviction notices, and they hit some roadblocks, and they needed to clarify in the code that a nonprofit could work with the court system to put notices on how to get help on eviction notices. It took 2 years of planning to get it done, but I'm really proud to say that we worked together, we got that bill passed this year. So we can do that. And it was a team effort.